department. It's one of the many ones we do. Thank you. Good morning. My name's Don Barbagello. I work for the Gloucester Fire Department, obviously. I've been there about 20 years. I'm a lieutenant there in charge of public fire and life safety. This is one of my many jobs. We all have several jobs in the department. It's one of the many ones we do. This is what saves lives, is planning. Planning before the incident. In a situation like this, your emergency evacuation plan. Those stickers on the wall, probably in every room and in most hallways and stuff, are your best line of defense. Know where your closest exit is. Know what your fire alarm sounds like. In my building, it's a fire station. We have all sorts of alarms, horns, bells, for all different things. And we have a fire alarm system in the building. Our building has probably, at any given time, 15 to 20 people in it, not counting the public that might be passing through. If somebody doesn't know what they're doing, which hopefully everybody in our department does, and the fire alarm goes off and they blow it off as something else, there's a potential for danger, for a disaster. So know what your fire alarm sounds like. I'm always on the lookout. As you know, I go into a lot of places, and I learn everything I can, and I pick things up in a heartbeat. One of the things I picked up here today was a phone call I just heard, that you were asking to page the rest of the people to come here. Message came back that she had paged everybody. We never heard a thing in this room. Instantly, I looked up and looked around. All I see is emergency lights in this room. I don't see any type of fire alarm, whether it's visual, flashing strobes, or horn sounds in this room. Oh, there it is. Okay, I missed it. It's red, I missed it. But it has both. But if you were to use your... No, that's good. And I should have looked up there because that's where the smoke detector is. But I have been in places where, and some of these are schools, where you can't even hear the announcements. If you can't hear the announcement, you're probably not going to hear the fire alarm. So you want to make sure all that's in place and know what they sound like and know what to do. Are the fire exits and pathways obstructed? Well, we just had a shipment of boxes of paper come in. Just leave them right here for now. Well, they happen to be by the fire door. The odds are, we all know, we do this all the time. I've been working here 20 years. We've always stacked stuff here. 2 or 3 days later, we get it out of the way. Not a big issue. But it's never a big issue until the one day something happens. It only takes a second. Now you've got these boxes, and let's say the 4 or 5 people that assembled in that area to move this stuff can't physically move it. They're stuck now. So we want to keep these pathways and exit ways clear. The other reason being, I'll give you an example of when we go into nursing homes and hospitals. Part of their fire plan is to take everything out of the hallways and put them into rooms. When we come into a building, if I had some staff with me today, I could bring in a couple of guys that were all geared up. When I'm standing here right now, I could probably pass through almost any place in this building almost undetected. Put the 70 or 80 pounds of gear on me that I carry when I come into a house fire or a building fire, dragging an 1 3/4 hose behind me. It's a recipe for disaster because now I start knocking things over, things start falling into the hallway. If we have to retreat and get out, we can't. If we need to move in further into the building, it impedes us, so we need these pathways clear for our passage and for your passage. Part of your building code is set up so that the exits in this room, there's a maximum capacity for this room, probably about 50 people. There's so many exits to accommodate that number of people into a certain width hallway that leads directly to the outside so that we can pass so many people in a certain amount of time and evacuate this room. All this stuff that we see that we always took for granted, there's a reason behind it. And it's all designed very quietly, but all designed to keep us safe and to be able to exit the building. And know where your assembly area is, whether it's your house or this building. When that first truck shows up, it's going to have an officer on it. It could be the incident commander, the deputy chief. It could be a captain. It could be myself, just a lieutenant. The first thing we're going to want to know is the first person we contact. Hopefully he's going to be one of the team leaders. And our first question is everybody out of the building? Have you accounted for everybody? If you tell us you've accounted for everybody, our job just got immensely easier. Because believe it or not, if we don't intervene with anything at that point, but everybody's out of the building, the fire will go out sooner or later. But if there's somebody in there, we've got a job to do. Once everybody's out of the building, we can get in there, try to mitigate the damage, put the fire out, and try to get you back to normal as quickly as possible. So we need to know where your assembly areas are, who to report to. It does me no good when I show up and 35 people approach me and everybody's trying to say they're out of the building all at once. You got to remember, there's a lot going on your end, there's a lot going on my end. I exit my vehicle, I'm sizing up your building, I'm assembling my crew, giving them instructions on what I want them to do, and I'm trying to get information from you at the same time. Plus, I've got radio dispatch barking in my ear about anything else that's happening. Trucks that are delayed, trucks that are coming that I didn't expect were coming, anything that he knows about the building, so there's a lot. This is why these environments are very noisy too. This is why sometimes things get overlooked. So we try to keep everything as normal and as logical as possible, and the more we train at this, the better we get at it and the smoother things go. So this is the most important part, and that's why we put it up front. Up front is the emergency evacuation plan. These 3 extinguishers here, they look very much like the red one in the middle. But they all have a little bit of difference. The horns are different, the colors are different, the sizes are different, the triggers at the top are different. They can also carry different chemicals in them. So we want to be aware of that. We're going to get into this a little deeper, but there's a label on every one that explains what's in it. In this building, all of your fire extinguishers should be tailored to the type of hazard that would be in this building. If something is to change in this building where your company is moving into some other type of manufacturing involvement with whatever you're doing, and nobody does a fire plan afterwards, you may find out that you're woefully inadequately protected with the wrong equipment and not enough equipment. A lot of people don't update us as to their changes in plans because it costs money. It means updating sprinkler systems, it means upgrading fire protection systems, it means notifying your insurance company, and there we go again with the $sign, and it just didn't factor into their plans. It makes a difference, it really does. I hinted just earlier, some common types of fires. There's an A, B, C, and K, and there's also one more. We'll get into the last one. I didn't put it up here because it's not very prevalent, we touched on it earlier. An A fire is nothing more than common materials, wood, paper, textiles type of stuff. A B, actually the easiest way that we teach to remember this is A is everyday, ordinary, that type of stuff. Doesn't really go with it, but B would be a boiling liquid. Anything that gasoline, kerosenes, fuel oils, alcohols, things like that. C is electrical, anything energized. The camera in the room, the computers, and we know that some of our computer, like mainframes and stuff, these things can use a lot of electricity. AC motors, things like that, they're electrical fires. K is what we call kettle. This would be more in restaurants and cooking facilities like Gordon's and things like that. These are oils, but these are at much higher temperatures. Much higher temperatures than you would find in a basically gasoline fire or something. And these oils tend to be sticky. So when they spatter, it not only spatters just the oil, it spatters little flaming materials too. So that's what the classifications are. As you look at some of these extinguishers, you'll see the pictures are here. On some of them, they'll even say A, B, and C on them. That's what those are. The K, like I said, is a specialty. That would be mainly for if you had some of those types of facilities. The other one in here is a metal X. We touched on it earlier when we talked about the sand pails. Modern era, we now have, and a fire extinguisher looks something like this one, or the middle one, and it has metal X written on it. That's the one that's designed to put out those metal fires. And it's only designed for that. You wouldn't want to use that or anything else. Sure.
That kettle fire, would that also be the same as if you had a fire in your stove at home?
Not really.
Grease fire?
No. That you'd be using your standard ABC extinguisher. But that's, people do get, the picture is a little misleading. It's made for boiling, for oils and stuff. These fire extinguishers, and they tend to be a little more expensive too, but they're mainly for that cooking type of facility. Wherever Like I said, Gordon does a lot of cooking of their fish, and they have these big, long fryer-laters that are 20, 30, 50 feet long. This is what they'd be using to put them out, on top of some other chemicals. There they are there, it's wood paper. They threw tires in there on the A side of it. Any one of these extinguishers would probably put out a couple of rubber tires. With a little bit of trouble, but it would get to it. Rubber burns very fast. Rubber is a petroleum-based product. But you see the gasoline and petroleum-based, the B is really what would do the job for that one. Your appliances, the biggest problem with the C is once we de-energize the equipment, all we have is an A-B fire. The difference that we throw the C in there is because of the application. We would not want to use, for obvious reasons, the silver can, which is a water extinguisher, on an energized motor. There's a good chance we could become electrocuted. Whether it's from the stream contact or the water runoff afterwards. There's always if they're going to get you, there's always a couple ways they're going to try. So, like I said, cooking oils and greases, mainly in industrial areas. That's what they are. Several types of fire extinguishers. The silver one's pretty common, that's there. Water cans, we call them. I've actually got a little bit, I did a little bit more because things changed a little bit, and let me see if I can find my notes here. Yeah, just an air pressurized water can, 2.5 gallons. It's mainly for Class A fires, common ordinary materials. There's times where you will squirt one of those and you'll find out that it comes out foam. They do add a wetting agent, a foam agent to them sometimes. Gives us better penetration, works better. Once you add the foam to it, that now has a life expectancy also. It would need to be changed out much like these do. As standard water goes, if the gauge is up, it's pressurized, it's full of water, it's ready to go. Like I said, they hold 2.5 gallons, 250 gallons, I'm thinking back at the station. It's a 1/2-inch hose. The initial discharge will squirt about 50 feet. On our end of the department, on our job, probably 1 or 2 of those with a highly trained person could probably put out a decent couch fire without much trouble. I give that to somebody untrained, you're going to have problems. It goes fast, it doesn't last long, and you really don't remove enough of the heat from the fire to do much good. But those are, actually we still carry those, actually every one of these here, this would be on one of our smaller trucks, but all of these here are actually on our vehicles every day. So we still use them also. The dry chemical. This one and that one. These are the ones that are in this building. These are ABC type extinguishers. They're all over the place. When we go outside to the demonstration outside, you'll be able to handle these, and you'll find out even this one has a little bit of weight to it. One of the drawbacks to it. The ABC and dry chem in the middle, extremely heavy. It'd almost be dragged around. That's one of the drawbacks to them. The dry chemical that's in it, when you see it expel, we're going to discharge all of these today. When we expel the chemical inside of it, you're going to find out that you have more problems than just the fire. One is if it's not used properly, meaning hitting the fire at the right spot and being close enough to the fire, you're ineffective. The second thing being, you're going to be in a confined space. We're going to be working in the corner of this room, in a closet, some type of small storage facility. I can take one of these fire extinguishers that's about this big around and about that tall, discharge it facing this way in this room, and I guarantee you with the ventilation system, it's going to spread the dust all over this room. That dust will cause you no end of problems if you have health issues. Any type of respiratory issues, you're going to have problems once you breathe that in. If you don't have health issues, you'd probably still be taking a visit to the emergency room if you breathe this stuff in. It's nasty stuff. If you ever let one go in your house, plan on calling a cleaning crew. Even by accident. You don't have anything going on, you're cleaning one day, you knock it off the wall, it discharges. You'll find out you're going to need a cleaning crew. And even after they leave, you're going to find it every place. It's nasty stuff. It works very effective, but it's nasty stuff. The clean agent, CO2. That's this one here. Again, a very heavy unit. It's a pressurized unit. This one's pressurized higher than the other two. It has carbon dioxide in it. It's also a cold agent. One of the things we're going to do today, this isn't for me to drink. This is warm. We'll pass it around later. We're going to take this outside and we're going to frost this with one shot and give you an idea of how cold it gets. I guarantee you, once it's frosted, these are the order of the day. It will give you frostbite.
Wow.
You can probably Google this or YouTube it. Guys cooling their beers with this stuff. Okay? It's all out there. I'm telling you, it does a good job. I know firsthand. Okay? But one of the things about this, once it discharges, I could let that whole can go in this room. 5 minutes later, you'll never know I did it. There may be a small wet area because the CO2 was condensed, caused some moisture to come out of the air. That's about it. But I'll tell you right now, I'd let that go, and I probably could get every person in this room to jump. It's very, very loud. What all three of these have in common is nozzle reaction. When you pull the trigger, you're going to find the nozzle move. That's a big problem with fire extinguishers. Most of what we're going to be doing is trying to get close enough and stay at the base of the fire. As we're trying to move in, that's bad enough. Trying to stay low enough to get out of the heat and smoke, and staying in one place to stay at the base of the fire. Then you've got the nozzle reaction that's working against you too. So there's all these little caveats that come into play that you never really thought of before. Some of the pieces, as we move closer and closer into what we're going to actually be doing the hands-on, the handle comes in two pieces with a pin. The pin should be in just like this one. You'll notice one of the water can is missing it, but it's safety-wise, prevents an accidental discharge. It also tells me the last time this was charged was 2013. There's a gauge in the front that also will tell me whether the charge is good. But the handle, back to the handle, is two pieces. The bottom moves, but doesn't do anything. The top one drives the pin down, discharges through the nozzle. So I've got the handle, the pressure gauge that'll tell me whether the unit's any good or not as you're passing by. I'll probably in another couple of weeks when we come back here, usually unannounced, to do our annual fire inspections. Check your smoke alarms, check your fire extinguishers, check your exits, things like that. We'll be going by checking all these dates and checking those gauges also. The nozzle we just talked about a little bit, the hose, and the all-important part that's highlighted, what the extinguisher is used for. There it is there, that one would be an ABC one. And you'll find that this is on all of them. The handles are a little different, but you see they all have straps on them, they all have pins in them. All the handles work the same. This is an ABC. This is an ABC. This is dry chemical. This is carbon dioxide. Puts out fires different. When we have a fire, they've got 3 things here. There's actually 4 things we're interested in to try to stop the fire. To have a fire, we need air all around us. That's plenty. 21% oxygen is more than enough. We need a fuel. We got air, we need something to burn. A fuel, paper, wood, the tables, the wall coverings, whatever. We've got to get that fuel heated up somehow. So we're going to have to have some sort of heat generation. Any one of those 3 not present, you're not going to get a fire. So if we can remove, as we're doing our preemptive strike, we can't remove the air, but if we can limit the fuel and keep it away from heat sources, odds are we're probably going to have a good day. We start to put fuel next to hot radiators, stoves, cutting torches, things like that, and we're probably going to have a bad day. As far as putting the fire out, we remove the air, or the heat, or the fuel, the fire goes out. Or one more thing. Once they all get going, the air starts working with the heat and the fuel, we have this chain reaction happening and the fire continues to burn and gets bigger and bigger and bigger. If we inhibit the chain reaction, we didn't actually put the fire out with the sand, but we separated the heat from the metal, from the fuel. We broke the chain reaction, we stopped it. If I cooled the heat with the carbon dioxide to a point, let's say paper burns at 212 degrees. Carbon dioxide, if I can cool that paper below 212, it ain't gonna ignite. If I was to stand here right now with a match and try to light this, or a piece of cardboard, it's gonna take a few minutes while the flame is hitting it before it finally lights. What we're doing is preheating the fuel. Once it reaches its ignition temperature, then it takes off. So if we can prevent that from happening, the paper won't burn, we don't have a fire. And that's basically what these extinguishers do, is they remove some sort of the fuel. So they remove the fuel, the heat, or the air. Or they stop the chain reaction and the fire goes out. That's how they work. The way they work, I don't know if anybody's seen this before, it's been every place, it's been on TV, everything from Mythbusters to Bill Nye the Science Guy. Especially now coming up, probably late September and into October, Fire Prevention Week, you'll see more of these ads out there from NFPA, from the Mass Fire Academy, all those people. But it's a simple acronym, PASS. Each letter stands for a particular rule we need to do. Number one, and believe it or not, everybody usually gets a chuckle out of this, they tried to use their fire extinguisher and it wouldn't work. Well, remember what you're doing. There's a fire in your home, in the place you work. It's a nerve-wracking, intense situation. They simply forgot to pull the pin. Or, believe it or not, these are designed to break. They can be a little tough. If you have arthritis in your hands, if you have some disabilities, you may not be able to pull that pin. But that pin, if you cannot pull this pin, this thing is no good to you. So the first thing is we've got to pull the pin. Remove it. If you lose it, don't worry about it, because once the pin's gone, it's got to go to be recharged, and they give you all new stuff anyway. So we're going to pull the pin. This we talked about earlier. We're going to stand about 8 feet away. That's pretty close to a fire. When we get to the video, you're going to find out, I don't know if I even want to attempt this. We're going to stand about 8 feet away, and we're trying to aim at the base of the fire. What's happening and what's causing the problem for us is down where the fire began. That's where the most heat is, that's where the most fuel is. Even when I come in with those large diameter hoses to come in here, and we're trying to put a fire out, I'm trying to get to the base, the seat of the fire. The quicker I get there, the quicker the fire goes out. That's what you're trying to do with this. You're aiming at the base from about 8 feet away. We're going to squeeze the handle. You don't have to worry much about a soft squeeze or a hard squeeze. It's one shot. Squeeze it as hard as you can. My recommendation, if you're going to get involved with this, is once you squeeze that trigger, don't let it go. Keep it pointed at the base of the fire as best you can. Don't let it go until it discharges its entire content. Once it does, you got to exit the building anyway. There's always the chance of a rekindle. If it does come back on you, you are out of product. You have no defense. And we're going to sweep at the base from side to side. We want to do this slowly because there's a chance we can spread the materials. Remember, all these cans are pressurized. While they're expelling their product, they're also expelling some air, compressed air. It can blow papers and things around also. But for the most part, we're aiming at the base and we're using a sweeping motion slowly from side to side. Now, we've got to go through all these steps. We have a fire. You've got to go get this thing. Pull it off the wall. Bring it to where the fire is. Pull the pin. So now we're in this room here. I've got to be about 8 feet away. I've got to get it, come back. The fire's already gotten bigger. Pull the pin. About 8 feet away. Aim the nozzle. Stay low as this thing's putting up heat and smoke and debris. And then start sweeping it from left to right. Now in this configuration, the fire's here, I'm here, the door's there. We're optimal. That's perfect. Because if this messes up, if something goes wrong there, and let's say somebody's butane lighter decides to explode in the fire that I didn't know they had in their drawer, something like that, that fire's going to get bigger, this isn't going to handle it, I can drop it and the door's there. If the fire was at the door, and I tried to fight it from this side of the room, and the same thing happened, I'm trapped.
Right.
So this is only good and only used when you can stand between the exit and the fire. That's all. When we watch this video, it gets going, and it gets going very fast. It's really something, and you don't want to be trapped. That makes bad day for you and a very hard day for me. So that's why we try to make sure everybody knows the stance for that is the doorways to your back. We started this off with planning, and we're going to end it with planning. Here's the checklist and what we want to do. And this is mainly designed for a building like this, but you can take it and modify it for your home also. Notify the fire department. I can't tell you how many times we've heard this. We show up, well, where have you been, where have you been, where have you been? We got an automatic alarm from your alarm company that happens to be in Texas. And the next thing we know is, didn't you call the fire department? I thought you did. Well, we'd rather get 30 calls from the 30 people in this room than no call. Make sure that department is notified. You find a fire, notify the department. Alert the others, whether it's through if the automatic system has not gone off yet, pull the nearest station, notify everybody as you're leaving, knocking on doors, whether you're in an apartment building, a Kmart, this shop, a house, knocking on doors, make sure you got everybody moving. The more people you know what's going on, the better we're going to have. So we're going to notify the fire department and alert others and get the evacuation going. That's before we've even touched one of these yet. Get the evacuation going. When to use the fire extinguisher now. Now we've got the building get evacuated, we found the fire, we've notified the department, we've got everybody exiting the building, that's great. All the systems are working, the fire alarm is sounded, everybody's moving to their evacuation points, it's great. You're going to go back, maybe try to do something, mitigate this fire. You think, well, it ain't so big, you know, I could probably try to handle this, let's see what we can do. Your clear escape route, we just went over that. Your escape route is the door, you face the fire, your exit's to your rear. Never put it the other way around. You will get cut off. Make sure you're familiar with these. For a lot of us in this room, this is going to be the first time we're up close and personal with a fire extinguisher. If you don't know anything more than what you know today, I still recommend don't try it, leave. Call us. Give it a shot if you want to. If you can get some further training someplace, you feel pretty confident, make sure you do not get trapped. Keep yourself with a clear path to the exit. Make sure you have the right type for the right fire. That's pretty tough. It's pretty tough now unless you come across one of these cans here, the metal cans, the silver ones where it's just water in it. Pretty tough to run into the wrong one, but it is possible. A lot of people have a lot of things in their homes, in some of the smaller shops around Main Street, some of the industrial parks. They may have found a fire extinguisher in their shop left over from the last tenant. Well, I think if it was good for him, it'll be good for me. And probably not going to work that way. We ran into here.
Obviously, we pretty good idea of what it's going to look like.
Right here. It's an standard office building, almost looks like a construction type. They've got plans laying around, a couple of suits, you know, the normal stuff. You find in almost any cubicle, any office. Fire's in the corner. You can't really see it unless I play the video a little more, but you'll already start to see the fires down here. You're starting to see smoke at the ceiling level.
Looks like your office, Peter.
And that's very small. This is that part of that fire that I told you about that, yeah, you might want to try to put this out. Except for one thing that you didn't look at, you didn't realize. Here, he's going to tell you, they started the fire in this corner. This is one office in a building. Did this fire start in this corner? Or did it start in the room next door and burn through the wall? Now you're in this room, at that doorway, trying to put out this fire. You've got to exit that door and head that way to the exit. But that's the room that's on fire and you don't know it. You put this fire out, you expel your extinguisher, didn't work, you go to leave, you hit the door, and you find out your exit's cut off. You got to know what's around you, above you, below you. You'll find out as this video plays out, he'll go into that at the end also.
Like if it does. This evening. And everyone's gone home.
As you can see now, you can see the wisp coming across the top. We really don't even see the fire yet, maybe a little light above the soup. It's not very big. There's heat accumulating at the ceiling already. Remember, you're gonna be about 8 feet away. That stuff has already run the ceiling behind you. Right now, it's probably just paper smoke. It could be plastic from a plastic waste basket. It could be something else that's down there, you know, a pair of boots that the guy was on a construction site, but they're made out of rubber. That's all different chemicals that are still accumulating at the ceiling level that are going to come down. Like I said, it takes a few minutes to get going. Sooner or later, they're going to put up a clock to tell you what's happening. I'm surprised it wasn't up already.
Don't blame it on me.
No, oh no, if anything, I've got the wrong video here. It's the right video, but somebody edited it. Because the one I originally saw had a clock to it. They started to really.
Well, there was a clock on the wall.
No, this has actually got a time runner. Yeah. It doesn't come up. It doesn't much matter. Right about now, we're about 2 minutes into this fire. 2 minutes. That's all. Hear the pops? That's plastics and things that are going off. That plastic is putting off gases that are going up to the ceiling. That's a pretty hot fire right now. You might be able to get it within 8 feet of that, but that's going to be about it. You're not going to get much closer than that. And like I said, just remember, did it start on your side or start on the other side? Yeah. The noises, these are all, this is, like I said, this is real. This is what I hear when I go into a house. When I go into your office, it's burning. These are the noises. Now we're in there trying to put this fire out, and we're trying to listen for people too. On top of, I'm all masked up and I'm hearing my own self breathe. I'm hearing my radio barking into my ear. There's a lot going on. We're about 4 minutes into this. I'm going to stop it right here. 4 minutes. Let's say you found it at the 2-minute mark.
I would have been out the door.
Yeah.
Yeah, grab the cell phone, call you guys, I'm out of here.
You decided to take the smart and safe thing to do. I'm going to call the fire department, get everybody out of the building. 2 minutes, you saw the size of the fire. You make the call. Probably maybe a 10-second conversation with that dispatcher. He alerts the house. That's everybody in the building, and 2 or 3 different fire stations around the city have been alerted to your incident. It's going to take us all total from the time I hear the tone go off to the time I arrive here, about 4 minutes. Well, you think, well, that's 4 minutes. No. That's 4 minutes for your fire. We were 2 minutes into this when you called. 6 minutes.
Yeah.
Give this fire 2 more minutes and I'll show you what it's like by the time I get it. Look at the black stuff over by the door already.
Yeah.
In a minute, see the clock that we just talked about? See the stuff that's dropping down? This is a fire, as I shouldn't have to say this, I'm sure everybody knows, you're well beyond a fire extinguisher at this point. Well beyond it. Stuff is dropping down. It's starting fires. You can see the pictures up above. Basically, conditions in this room now are becoming untenable. You would need to exit or you're probably going to be in trouble. On top of that, inside that smoke, you watch the smoke up above, you're going to see the fire lapping through the smoke. Smoke itself burns. It's full of materials. That's the room now self-igniting. What's happened now is the entire room has gone to enough temperature that all of the surfaces, walls, carpets, everything, have reached auto-ignition. The room is about to flash over. At this point,
Flash over me.
Ba 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 boom.
no, at flash over, let me see if I can catch it here.
I did watch that.
No, we just, I just had a question, what is flash over? There's 3 different terminologies that always get mixed up. Thank you to the movie people. We have flame over or rollover, flash over, and backdraft. Flame over was the flame, as you can see, rolling through the smoke over your head. For the civilian, it's a dangerous situation because you have temperatures now above you in the 1,000-degree range. So even if it's 1,000 degrees, a foot from the ceiling, we can probably estimate, and I'll just be conservative, 2 feet from the ceiling, 500 degrees, 3 feet from the ceiling, 250 degrees. Would you like to be near something with your head at 250 degrees?
No.
So we're down on the ground, obviously. But we're getting fire rolling through the smoke. For the civilian, that's a bad, bad scene. For me, it helps. We're coming in, I'm all bunkered up, I'm designed to take that type of heat. What the flame over is telling me is where the fire is. I'm putting it out as I go in the ceiling, I'll knock it down, move in, wait a few minutes, if it rolls again, knock it down, move in the direction it came, and it'll eventually take me right back to that spot. So it kind of works, has its good points, has its bad points. So we have flame over, backdraft. Backdraft is a totally different animal. What would happen in this case is this room would be totally tight, just the air that's in it. We're going to take this fire right through these stages, from incipient to free burning, to flame over, to flash over. At that point, we have burned all the air in the room and a lot of the fuel in the room, not all of it. The heat has traveled from the ceiling all the way to the floor level. At this point, the entire room is nothing but charcoals glowing. But we've superheated this room and pressurized it now, because we all know hot air expands. We've pressurized it and superheated it. But the fire is almost looks like it's going out. Until we do one fatal mistake.
Open the door.
Open the door. Or break a window in the wrong time or the wrong way. And now we've just instantly fed it what it's been dying for. Oxygen. And it reignites itself. It reignites with such ferocity that it actually explodes. If you ever seen slow motion of when a stick of dynamite explodes, it's actually just burning. But it burns so fast that it forces the air around it out. That's what happens. And it blows everything out of its way. It'll blow walls down. It'll pick up refrigerators, things like that, and throw them distances and stuff. It's pretty vicious. It's pretty dangerous. The good thing for you, you'll never be caught in a backdraft. The sad part is, long before those temperatures get that high, you won't survive. The good thing is, hopefully as those temperatures and things are happening, you're getting the hell out of it. The problem is we're going into that, trying to prevent that. We may get caught in it. That's why it's usually the firefighters get caught in backdrafts, not civilians.
Just have a rescue question.
Sure.
There's a fire in your home and you go in to get your spouse or your child or your pet.
Yep.
Like,
They're all family members.
best ways to rest, I mean, I know you can pass out from smoke inhalation.
Yep.
So what are the warning signs? Can you breathe through your shirt? I mean, what are the things you can do if you're going back in to get someone?
Stay low. Number one, don't go back in. We're about 6 minutes in. You can see the buildings, the room is going. It's almost fully involved at this point. Probably in the time we were talking, we might be 8 minutes now. 8 minutes. 8 minutes. I mean, think of the next time you put 2 pieces of toast in the toaster and drop the button. What's that, 2 minutes? And up it comes nice and golden brown. 8 minutes. So you made 4 pieces of toast. And there it goes, the room is gone. Like I said, you're well beyond your fire extinguisher range here. You're well beyond anything but a hose line. Let me just check to see what they're doing. Yeah, I'm gonna move this along a little bit in a minute, because I think they actually break it down just like we did. You hear the noises? Remember that ceiling that was above us? Just like this one?
That's gone.
I'm surprised it hasn't come down yet.
The
Here they are
fire
now.
you've just seen was very real, even if the office wasn't. It involved materials which are typical of many offices. No special effects were used, and you saw everything in real time.
2 hose lines to contain this.
But of
Actually,
course,
there
our
it is.
fire was no accident. It was
It starts with the clock. Now they'll walk you through it, but we just did that. It's just gonna go through it again. At the end, he's gonna show you where this fire, at this stage, when it got to that stage where this flame was about ceiling height, it actually penetrated the wall and got into the void space. This room was built inside of a container, like you see on the back of trailer trucks, that was in like an airplane hangar. They weren't planning on the fire getting into the void space and going up above. They were prepared for it, obviously they were prepared for a pretty significant fire here. You know, they had 2 lines in operation like that. But even at the best case, in training, things go wrong. Think of what happens when there is no oversight in training. Almost anything can happen. That's all we've got here. What we'll do is take a couple of these outside and have a little hands-on.
Okay, we're gonna go out back, so, all right, so back in the building.
Right,
Where we going?
back in the building.
Back in the building.
That was very good.
Trust me, you won't get wet and you won't get dirty. The big thing right now is, pick that up. Just lift it. Take, yeah, just like, no, right under here. Just like that. Just try to lift it.
So turn around.
Now hit from the, no, you can put it down. Think of how far you might have to go with that. Yep. Give it a shot, just so you know. Give an idea.
Scott, let me get your good side.
Aussie heavy or
Now remember that, because I'm going to have you two, you can put it down.
Mastiff heavy.
As we move through these, I'm going to have you two guys, just so you can compare and let everybody else know as we start to lift these things. I was just talking with Rick, they get considerably heavier. So for now, what I'm going to have you do,
Really heavy.
this is just water, nothing else in it.
How much does that weigh?
Well, water's what, 8 pounds a gallon?
Yep.
There's 2.5 gallons in there?
Yeah.
Plus you figure the container itself is probably another 5 pounds?
Where's Mary?
I'm 40 pounds. Right here.
All right, stand back here. This is the trigger, you don't have to lift it. And aim the nozzle, and I'll tell you what to do next. You'll squeeze it. Yeah, hold it right out. And just give it a squeeze. And let it go. Did you feel the reaction? Yeah, it has a kick. You see how far it went? Yeah. Give it a try. We had that planned.
They're making me take ET time. That's like not right.
Let it go, let it go. Keep it. And what I meant was, sorry about that. Squeeze it and let it go. Let discharge it. Now we just did this, 2 squirts. Look at how far the stream's going to start to drop.
No, that's good.
There's a lot of water in there, isn't there?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's why I told you, 2 cans in a trained person works very well.
It's heavy though.
Now remember, this is just training exercise. But believe it or not, I've got him just discharging this can.
Wow.
Great effect. This is what we see all the time when people try to use extinguishers though. Remember, we're not at the base of the fire. Make sure that happens if you're going to be using these. This is now becoming less and less. You can let that go. This is going to go for another couple of minutes. It goes for quite a bit of time. Not a lot, but quite a bit of time. That's your water can. Obviously much easier to carry.
And you're not going to be running with
Now you
that.
can really carry our water, Scott.
This one here. Give it a shot. Lift that. About the same? Maybe a little heavier? Yeah. All right. Where's our other helper?
Oh, right here.
Try to
Behind
lift
you.
that.
Let's smile for the camera.
Glad I got my shoes on.
I got my gloves.
But I mean, if you run with it or something, try to hold it.
Especially with those shoes.
Watch YouTube someday. Just seltzer water. Non-flavored seltzer water.
Hey, Sue. Okay, if you're trying to hold this for a while,
Yeah.
you're going to be
So you're probably not going to be, but if you have to, if you're trying to move with it, it's going to be a problem.
it's heavy.
Can you pull the pin for me? Just pull it.
see that.
This one?
Yep. Give it a yank.
Easy.
Okay. It's gone. That's
That
fine.
wasn't easy.
No, it isn't.
easy to pull.
Kind of like a beer
Now,
tab.
Holding the container, pull the horn.
Holding it up.
Yeah, just like that. No, just leave it down. Just keep it steady and pull the horn. Straight out. See it? These are the things that happen.
Wow.
It's a little bit. What probably would have happened is this thing would have knocked over, probably would have landed on your foot. Who knows what else?
Be crispy critters.
Carbon dioxide. Hold that just like that.
Stand there, Scott.
And just like we did before, 1 squirt. Listen with your ears. Okay? That's out here. Carbon dioxide, trust me, I wouldn't put you in any place where you're going to get hurt. Will not bother you.
I have a white top.
Yeah. Want to give it a shot?
Wow.
This time, though. Take it like that.
Got white stuff on there.
That's my beer, and I'm looking for a cold. Give it a shot or two.
Yeah, right.
Yep. Give it a shot or two. Right on top of it. A little bit closer. Right on top of it. Right on top. Stay kind of right here.
It's a beer, you can go 4 foot away.
Let it happen. That's good. That's good.
Oh my God.
Whoa. Drink that, Gary. See?
It's actually warmer than, the can's warmer than I thought.
It's not my brand.
You can feel,
Well, he's doing it on the hot top, which is hot.
this is what came out of it.
What is that?
Let's try ice.
Chunky beer.
It will happen. Try it again, see if we can get it cold. Let it have it for a few minutes. Let's try that. It's a lot different now. There's a little bit of snow on the top.
I said Bud Light.
Feel it? The difference?
I don't like lemon lime.
No. Feel that difference up there?
Yeah.
Even on the top, feel that top.
John,
That will be very cold.
does the gas help to put out the fire or
Yep.
just the actual foam?
The carbon dioxide, that's getting cold, will also displace oxygen and it will put out, it's not, this isn't foam, that's just basically dry ice, carbon dioxide.
But all the mist that goes will also...
Yep.
You can't drink
But
it.
also, did you see the mist?
Yeah.
It also
Maybe
has the
lunchtime.
potential to blow things around.
Oh, okay.
We'll let everybody who wants to later on, I'll let everybody discharge them once or twice. This one here, I'm going to do this one for obvious reasons. This is the dry chemical. I left my box in the building, but that's okay. We're in a house. We can do it right here. There's a top on this, but it's okay. Number one, here we go again. I've got the problem of pulling the pin. Pin's out. Lift it. Now remember, it's dry chemical. One shot. There you go.
Oh, wow.
That's in your house. That's in the room that you're trying to fight the fire in. That's what you don't want happening. Well, not today. No.
Check for bumps.
I don't like working a tap on a keg.
Yes. Anybody learn anything today?
Absolutely, that was great.
If you're gonna try it, make sure you get an A on this. You won't get a second chance. Call us. That's the big thing. Call us. That's my job. That's what your tax dollars pay for. Call me. Anytime, any place.
If I wanted to recycle, or if you can, what do I do with full extinguishers? How do I release that, in the yard?
I would
or-
contact either the DPW to find out if they'll take the containers, and just like we did here, let your neighbors know you're going to be doing something. Try to do most of it maybe into a trash barrel or something. You know, put a plastic bag in the trash barrel, put the lid on it. Try to be, you know, may take
keep
you a
it
little while to
closed.
just, you know, because they'll let you know, because they're still pressurized cylinders, and I know that the trash people really don't like pressurized cylinders. The fire department does not take your expired extinguishers. We don't take your old propane tanks. We don't take your fireworks. Well, on record.
Leave them on your neighbor's lawn, middle of the night.
So that's about it, unless everybody has any questions.
Very good.
I'm going to pick it up. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.